Last week I said I was going to share some of my low-res character creator iClone Unreal Engine Marvelous Designer workflow, and I thought while I'm working on it and before I forget how it works, I'm going to go and do a little screen recording of all the 40,000 steps that are necessary to make this happen. So this is a little test scene I've prepared for high-resolution garments that were simulated in Marvelous Designer, and we're going to use the high-res versions for the hero characters, but we need about 200-300 background characters for which I need to have low-resolution versions that don't bog Unreal Engine down, and that was happening when I'm using just the high-res version. So despite their polygon count not being that much, there's just so many of them that even Unreal Engine doesn't cope with it very well. So I'm making these guys here, and they, from a distance, they don't really look all that bad, and I need like about 5 times as many. These are the women, and I'm currently working on the men, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing that, because the high resolution garments, they're all made in Marvelous Designer. I'm going to use the next one up here. I've got sort of prepared the project already. I'll go and open it up, and it'll be something in which I simulate not the T-pose of the garment, because that would mean the garment would sort of stick to the figure. I'm going to use a very non-standard workflow. Like this is the regular workflow that you'd use. I don't think we need the 2D pattern. No, we do need the 2D pattern. Get rid of this, so get a little bit of less stuff that we export. So I'm going to go and use a sort of sitting drape position that you usually don't use when you transfer weights, and it still works. So thank you character creator, thank you iClone for letting me do that. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go and switch this over to GPU simulation. I've got my simulation already here, and this is this part of the animation that I want to use. So perhaps not with the hands, but something along the lines of this. So I think maybe just this part here I want to use. So I'm going to pick a nice frame of the animation that I want to use for rigging. So we'll see how this looks with the hands, but I think with the hands that's probably not gonna work. They're gonna stick through the garment. First thing we'll do is simulate this guy with this icon here. That takes a moment. So for Marvelous Designer, of course, we have the A pose, but this is really the draped animation that we see with all the wrinkly detail, and that looks really, really nice, but that's unusable for the low resolution versions. Yeah, so I'll just use this bit here, and that probably there, like frame 900 was probably a good pose in which I can rig this. Let's say 901. Let's just remember that. Pose 901, frame 901. Park my playhead here, and then I'll see if there's anything else that needs to be done on this garment. So I can press space bar and just see if I wanted to adjust this position, get the cloth in a little bit, or just grab things out, make some detail adjustments here. I tend to even switch this over to CPU and then sim it again, just because I always feel that CPU is a little bit more detailed, but GPU is just so much faster. And now with this in place, let's go and export it as an OBJ, and this one is going to be kneeling 1B from MD, just so that we remember what that is. I need a single object welded thin with all patterns selected and unified UV coordinates, so that my material in Unreal Engine works in a moment. So that is that. And the same animation is also available for me in Character Creator, and this is something that I've done earlier. So this is now a garment that is rigged already, almost. It's similar animation, not quite the same. So we'll go and do this all from scratch. So first of all, I'm going to remove this garment here and go and find myself the same animation that I've had in Marvelous Designer. So thankfully I've got that saved out, and this is in Character Creator now, by the way, just in case you get confused, which I often do. Kneeling 1B, this is it. So if I go and put that on, and this is important workflow wise, so we can transfer weights even with an animation in place in Character Creator, which is kind of cool. It's just that we need to dial in the correct frame here so that the thing matches. So in our case that was 901, and if I now go and bring in my garment from Marvelous Designer, which was this one here, kneeling 1B, it actually fits in the correct position. This is something that they could really do with sorting out there at Reallusion. I also tend to just give it a slightly different color, because I think the bright white is a bit too too much for my taste. So anything slightly easier on the eye is good for me. So this is that, and of course if I move this, then the garment doesn't move with it, but we're going to go and fix that now by transferring the skin weights. But notice that on this tab here, I don't see an option to do that, and that's because the garment right now is not an accessory, it's just a loose object here. So a way to do that, thanks to my friend Brian, who's very kindly given me that little tidbit of information, we can just go and attach it to the main character here. Also make sure that we attach it to the root bone with alignment of none, otherwise this thing is going to jump out of position. And now if we go and look in the scene tab, we can see it is an accessory, and that means that on the modify tab we now have the option to transfer the skin weights, which is amazing. So let's go and do that. For this particular garment, dress works really well. I've tried them all out. The cloak I thought was the most obvious. Default would have also perhaps worked, but it rigs more than we need. So dress doesn't rig the legs, which is kind of nice. Otherwise we see distortions where we don't really want them. So I'll use that. Lateral partitioning is something that gives an indication of what is mapped to the left and to the right. So for our case, it's obviously wrong, but I think we can ignore it because I think it's going to work out without lateral partitioning because of the dress preset here. Let's see though. There, close that down and we'll see what the animation looks like. So it's not perfect, but that's fine. Like here with the arms, I think this is probably, it would be quite a stretch to fix that, but even for a low-res character, it's probably gonna, it might work. I think I'm just gonna go and crop that bit of the animation out, and I'll do a little bit. So this is from here to sort of here. That's the part I want to use of the animation. So I think what I might do is just make a few adjustments here with the edit mesh tool. Just avoid a little bit of poke through. I have a low resolution character that I'm going to combine this with in Unreal Engine. Sculpt, make the radius to about 60 here, and then just go and take this out, smooth it out a little bit as well. This stuff as well, if there's a little kinky stuff, any sort of harsh edges, we can just go and smooth that out with the shift key held down. And the cool thing about this is you can fix this in situ with the animation, so you can just go and look through and say what else needs fixing, and just keep doing it as you play the animation, so you don't have to switch back and forth, which I thought was a very, very neat touch. I've spent a lot of time trying to find the best workflow for this particular situation here, and it looks like this is pretty much the best. And these sort of quick fixes here, it's much appreciated that these tools exist. So yeah, we're not going to use that little bit of poke through here. We're going to have a gray sort of figure in this, so we're not going to see skin tone popping through, which is also something important to keep in mind. There's a little bit of kinkiness going on here. You could try fiddling with the weight maps as well, but again, because it's just a low-res animation in the background, we probably don't have to worry even about these things. So that's quite nice. I'm going to go and save this in its current form here. This is some kneeling cloaks, I think. So kneeling cloak 1B. And all these animations I've actually recorded with my Rococo suit, so very exciting. So now that we've done this, I'm going to go and send this all over to iClone, from where we're going to go and export it as a trimmed version. So with the top character here selected here, with a single click, send to iClone. Oh yes, I've committed the cardinal sin. My animation wasn't at the beginning here, so I think this is the old one. This is the new one. Okay, perfect. So this here, let's go and trim it first of all. So we don't want the A pose. Start right here. So break that clip here. Ditch the beginning. This is actually the previous animation, so cardinal sin, I tell you, cardinal sin. Let me just go and send that over again with the playhead in the first position with no animation on it. Only takes a second, so mistakes happen everywhere. Yes, overwrite, it's all good. Yeah, so this, just to give you that indication here, this is what the rigged version would look like, and it's of course totally unusable, and it's just crazy. But hey, we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so this is the part I want to use. So from here, I'll trim that bit out to here, just before he raises his hands, and that's enough here. And then I can use that to loop that and put it into the positions that I want. I'm going to go and select this as a range here with that clip selected, and that is what we're going to go and export out to Blender. So File, Export, FBX, and we want to use the range with the Blender preset. There is an Unreal Engine preset. For some reason that doesn't work. It's one of those things, but the Blender preset does work. And I'll call this one, I'll put this in a new folder as well. Kneeling 1B. And this one is going to be Kneeling 1B from iClone, because we're going to have another one from Blender in a moment. So the reason why I have to go via Blender is because if I remove the Kevin mesh here, the cloak isn't going to follow properly, and I only need the cloak animation with the proper skeleton in Unreal Engine, and Blender facilitates that, which is quite nice. So that's why I'm going via Blender. I've got an open project here already, so this one was the previous one. This was Kneeling 1A. I'm going to go and make a new scene here, call that Kneeling 1B, so I keep all these bits and pieces in the same Blender project. That is quite nice. I'll import that new FBX with all defaults, and then when it comes in, I can remove Kevin's body. So first of all, I'm going to go and find the correct end frame of the animation, otherwise Blender's only going to export the first 250 frames. So I'll pick the armature for that, go beyond the animation, and then pick one of those, select the previous keyframe type thing. So this is 481. Let's go make that our last frame. That is that. And now I'm going to go and select Kevin here, and basically the rest of the body except for the cloak and also his brows. We don't need those either. And I'm going to combine that. So this is going to have its own skeleton in Unreal Engine, and Kevin is also going to have his own skeleton in Unreal Engine, and I'll combine those as a blueprint with basically two animations running simultaneously. And they're going to be transferred from iClone separately. So this is that. Now I can go and export this out into a special folder for UE, and this one is going to be Kneeling 1B. And here I'll use also all the presets except for under animation. I'm going to untick NLA strips and NLA actions. So let's go and do that. And that is that from Blender. Now we're going to go into Unreal Engine and import my man over here. So this is a low-res folder I've got, Kneeling 1B. In here, I'll go and import exactly that file that we've just exported from Blender, so Kneeling 1A, with all the defaults except for materials and textures. I don't want to use those, but I'm going to make a new, I'm going to have Unreal Engine create a new skeleton for this, because it doesn't work otherwise. There's all kinds of merging bone messages, and it's just not working. This is something that I need to look into, how to reduce animation keyframes, because I really don't need 15,000 for this. But hey, one thing at a time. I'm just glad we can make use of this workflow so that there's a lot of characters in the scene. So that's the most important thing at the moment. And since it's not for real gameplay, it's just a cinematic, we don't really worry about performance and frame rate quite so much, because cinematics are much more forgiving than that. So this is my skeletal mesh. Looks pretty terrible, but the moment I put my material on there, which is the same material for all the cloaks we're using, it doesn't look too bad the moment it's moving. Oh, the other thing I want to use is nanite, of course. I'll enable that preserve area as well. It doesn't have morph target, so that'll work in this case. So then I will go and combine this together with a character, much like I did with these guys here. So if I go and browse to where that is, these are all the Camilla low-res versions here. I'm going to go and make another folder here for Kevin, and these are the Kevin low-res versions. Kneeling LR is this for him. Make a new blueprint here. That's just a standard actor blueprint, and it's going to be BP 1BLR, so that this is the one blueprint I can use for these types of things. And here we're going to have a skeletal mesh component. In fact, two of them. This is going to be Kevin, and I'm going to duplicate that, and this is going to be the cloak. I'll put the cloak underneath Kevin. So Kevin needs to be, or I want for Kevin to be a special version that I haven't transferred into Unreal Engine yet, and I can probably do that straight from iClone while I'm here. Let me just go and save this. This one is going to be kneeling 1BLR. Always good to save everything that we might need at one point. I'll go and in fact remove everything here and bring in an actor I think I have in Character Creator, which is a low-res version of Kevin. Yes, there we go. I've got one with hair and one without hair. So let's go and remove everything and bring in Kevin 7K. This is something I've also made with Character Creator, and that means the characters can transfer much faster than the originals would. They also take the same animation, so they're compatible with the original skeleton, but you can see that this guy is much more low res and hence transfers much faster. So let's go and send him over to iClone, and let's just go and send that animation over right now. With the lifelink tab that I've got here on my other monitor, I'm going to go and use transfer and just the scene, so just the character, not the prop, not the camera, not the light, and we'll do the motion in a moment. So actually we could probably go and do the motion while we're at it. I should have saved that out and applied that here. Technically, I totally didn't do that. Yes, I totally didn't. So yeah, let's go and do that. Let's load him again. That was the wrong one. I need to have this one here, 1B. Let me go and load that and just save that animation out as a motion here in a new folder called kneeling. And those are the trimmed kneeling animations that I need to save here. So kneeling 1BLR. Now we'll go and remove all of these things and bring in our Kevin 7K character, who is happy to take the same animation. There we go. So that'll now run in sync with the cloak I've just transferred out. So now I can go with my Unreal Lifelink panel here. Let me go and use the character and the motion in the range 480, and that is what we want to transfer over. So let's do that. Has it done it already? Sometimes it's so fast you can't tell. Other times it takes half an hour. But yeah, no, it looks like it's done it. So when you can't switch to Unreal Engine, it's because Unreal Engine is busy with stuff. That means the only way to actually bring it into focus is to minimize all your other windows. Yeah, it's busy. It's busy. That's good. Not sure why it would delete assets now, but hey, let's not worry about that. Cleaning up old assets, that's always good. Okay, here we go. This is good. So this is the 7K Kevin that I'm going to go and call him as such. I should have really done that in Unreal Engine, but this is going to be Kevin 7K. Just so that we know who that is. That's also the Kevin 7K skeleton. And this is the guy that we want to put into here. That's him. Then with the cloak, that is the skeletal mesh that we find over here. That was kneeling 1B, the one that we've just done here. That goes into here. And as terrible as that looks, the moment we go and put it into our scene over here, let's go and focus this on here. I think I have an animation blueprint in here already. So this is for the women. And I'll go and use my man Kevin here, just over here, that we can see him in action. So add him to the sequencer, and I'll go and isolate him here. In order to animate him, I'll go and track Kevin. So the component Kevin, not just the blueprint, but the component Kevin, I'll track here, and the component cloak, I'll track here as well. And for Kevin, I want to use an animation, and since he has his own skeleton here, this is the one that I want to use. I'm going to go and rename that in a second, so that works fine. And then we'll go and track the animation for the cloak as well. That also has its separate skeleton, so it currently only has one animation, and they do run in sync, and that is the low res thing we want to use. And that multiplied by 400 should be just fine in Unreal Engine. And those artifacts on the material we're going to go and fix. But yeah, that is the workflow in a nutshell. And it's so complicated because it's just not possible to do it any other way. The cool thing now is if I go and want to duplicate or loop that, I can just go and drag the animation out and just duplicate both of them and create longer versions of that, like so. And once I've done that, I can go and then have more of these guys around and stagger the animations a little bit once against the other, so that they don't all look absolutely in sync. But yeah, there we go. That is my super non-standard animation workflow from Marvelous Designer to iClone to Character Creator via Blender into Unreal Engine, and you know, it sort of works remarkably well. I will show you the full crowd scene once we're done with it, but yeah, I'm right in the middle of it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you got a little bit of an insight, and very, very careful if you reproduce this at home, kids.